I film light with a digital camera, and I use a shiny spot usually on a glass object such as a glass candlestick holder or a glass marble, and I film up real close without using a flash into the shiny spot of light that is shining on it because I have a LED light shining towards this. I can also use the light of the sun, but I prefer to be indoors and use the LED light. Now this is a light photon as it first comes out, and it's kind of a teardrop shape. And I'm thinking that this orb-like nature of the light as it comes out is showing us what is in empty space and how light looks as it travels about, or maybe you might want to say reproduces itself. And it just moves in and out at a certain distance from the source. But when I get further out with my camera, I get a more round orb. But these next few pictures show you just that small little movement of it. And then I get the most beautiful colored orbs. And they're just gorgeous. You know, I could take them all day. They show me such strange and unusual things are in the orb. And sometimes they take on a funny shape like this orb. It looks like a wave. And then I sometimes see orbs that look like things are going on inside of them. Like here, the whole top portion of this just started sort of looking like it exploded out of there. And then one orb moved in such a way that it looked like a wine bottle. Now, for all the world, this looks like caustics, but there was no wine bottle, I can assure you. But I played around with this one, and I used my program Picasso to write in there, light wine for enlightenment. And here is an example I want to just show you. With the naked eye, I see light, and I think I'm seeing through my third eye, because this portion here that you see right there, I see that correspond to the movement of my own physical eye. Like when I squint my eyes real tight, it squints tight. And when I open them wider, it opens wider. And I would see this big orb with all kinds of things floating around in it. But I could never really explain this well to people, not that they even wanted to hear. But I did learn how to take pictures of it. Now you see there's these little colorful bubbles on the lips of this little part that seems to be my third eye. And they would turn loose and go out into the bigger orb that I was looking at with all its strange things floating around in it. And at first the bigger orb had no color except black and white and shades of gray. But then as the color came off these little portions here, it seemed to be coming out of my third eye. The color went into the orb and things started getting very colorful. And I started learning how to take pictures of orbs of light. And I discovered there was these little things in it that just I couldn't figure out what they were. But with the naked eye, I see little tubes or partial tubes, just like this, floating just in front of me. And there's a whole lot that I now can film that I also can see with the naked eye. But now also I'm filming some things that I can't see with the naked eye. And these little colorful bubbles that I told you were coming off of my third eye, sometimes they wrap around an orb, like this one seems to be doing. And they almost belt it, you know. But sometimes there's just a big bunch of them on an orb, like they're just laying there. And this one looks like a bunch of colorful bubbles falling out of an orb. I have my own theory of what this is. It's thought bubbles. Colorful thought bubbles, you know. Because our thoughts look like something, so, you know, that's a pretty good guess, I figure. I started looking at websites that talked about subatomic particles because I think maybe I'm looking at that. I found this one that has this analysis of how subatomic particles self-propel. Well, inside of the orbs I take pictures of, I get this similar thing, and this is probably just an artist's rendition. As you see, this is one of my pictures of an orb. That same self-propelling action of the subatomic particle that was just theorized by the ones who wrote that article. But I think they were right on, and that's how it moves. It kind of weaves itself in the most beautiful way. And I get it a lot inside the orbs. Can't get any physicists interested in this, but maybe haven't sent this to the right one. So if you know any physicists, please let them know of this. Now this is another thing I got off the web. It's a picture of the photon. And you see, they look like circles with concentric circles around them. And I get that in a lot of my pictures. Now here is something interesting that's just happened lately. In the violet part of the light that comes from the light source, I was seeing this matted, woven, pixelated looking. I'm going to bring it up close so you see it, how pixelated it looks. Oops. How did I go to another one? Well, anyway, I was listening to a YouTube video about if we're living in a computer-generated world, the best way to know is to film something at a very close focus, some piece of matter, and if it is pixelated, it is generated by a computer. That's what he was saying. And I'm thinking, well, maybe our light world is computer-generated by a kind of computer we're not familiar with, but I would term it what we call God. Like God were some big consciousness machines, and we're informational cells within that. Anyway, that's just where my mind went on that. Now this is a picture I got off another website. It's the hydrogen wave function. And you see all these little bodies of light that jump out different ways. I get that in my orb pictures as well. So then it makes me wonder, am I getting hydrogen wave function? Maybe what I'm filming is as small as a hydrogen atom. Because look here, that looks for all the world like one of these. Maybe this one or that one. And they change colors too. And I get them very often. I'll just show you a few of the examples. Now here's another example of something yet different. It's looks like a cocoon in a way, but inside it are these little balls that have lines that are curved. It's not showing up real good here, but I will show you. Oh, that's the wrong one. I get these little curved balls in other of my pictures of these photons of light. You can see they look like an X when they first come out because you don't see the whole thing formed. Here's an example how it looks kind of like an X. But as it grows, as I'm looking at it, it changes from an X look to two balls with curved lines in them. And I noticed one day that if I put the glass down in something wet, the glass that I'm getting the shiny spot off of, it will pick up the water, and I get a whole lot of these little X's that all turn into these little curved line balls. And then they don't just go away. They kind of mingle with the orb in other ways, and some of the orbs have just bucles of them. You can kind of see them here. There's two different ones, and they can be large or a series of real small ones. And this one you see the little curved line balls. They never seem to really touch. That's why they make a little thing that looks sort of like an X, because they don't touch there. And I go in real close on these orbs with my camera, which is just a real cheap little camera, digital camera. Now this is not my picture, but someone sent me this picture. And I said that wrong. I took this picture off of someone's website. I don't know if you can see it, but there's those little curved line balls right in that area there. It's really hard to see, but it looks similar to what I'm taking pictures of. So I'm thinking, well, these are common in people's orb pictures, and I don't know what they are. I do know that they multiply when you put water on the piece of glass, so they must be some component of the water. And these orbs also have falling off colors. And you can see the colors just fall off the edge there. I don't know why that's looking so dark. I see it real well on my on my computer screen, but maybe the next one will show it up better. Also, bands of color just drape over an orb like a ribbon. And here's one with some falling colors and very many beautiful colors in it. This one you can definitely see. It's draped over another orb and falling over it. And you can see it in the lower part of this one right at the bottom there. The colors just seem to fall off. You can see it with this one real well too. And with this one. It's like the orb is just seeing a larger landscape, but it's seeing it through the little round, binocular-like round holes of the orb shape. And so you just see parts of what goes on and on much bigger. I'll show you an example of that over here. Let me get this going. I was very fortunate this time to get all this light. I was filming and making a video and moving the camera slightly around in that shiny spot. And it was looking like the light was fractal because it kept making these beautiful images over and over and over. This might show up better if I take it off of being really, really huge on the screen. Let me do that. Okay, let me get it going again. Now you see the whole thing better. I call this video Trip into a Light Fractal. Everything in nature, when they really study it thoroughly, they find that it is fractal. And it certainly is seeming that way for light, that it is fractal. And there's always movement, but some of the movement is dependent upon me moving the camera about and looking at other parts of the light. Now I'm going to get back over here to my other screen and show you a few more pictures. This is a good example of one that showed part of it falling over. And lately I've been getting these little holes that seem to have a long stem-like thing coming from it. I have a few more like that. Here's another one. And there's another one. They look like tubes going into dark holes. Now this is a strange character. I call him Harry. He shows up only when I use one particular camera, but this is what he looks like. He's a very strange looking little critter, and I've given him a name because I see him so often. And orbs have tubes in them, little tubes. Here's one example of them. Or they're showing that up. One day, when I was filming, I got a lot of these donut-shaped things in my orbs. There's Harry again. He has a long, protruding kind of arm there on that side. I don't always get all of Harry into one picture because he's kind of long. There's that donut-looking thing again. And I always just wonder what it is that I'm seeing, because I listen to a lot of physicists who make videos, and they talk a lot about things that sound very scientific, but they don't have the pictures. I mean, they have the theories and they sound real smart, and I'm sure they know a whole lot more than I do. But I wish they would look at this, because I actually have some physical proof here of taking pictures, and I do not believe this is caustics or something similar to that a lot of people says, well, this is just what marbles that are glass do, because they have little pockets of air and things in them. But I don't think so. This is an interesting effect I see in the orb quite a lot. And here's another interesting one. They look so strange and beautiful. I think of it like if this was the invisible world, because it is to most people. They can't see it, but it's right in front of us. It's all around us. It surrounds us in empty space, which really there's no such thing as empty space. It's really all filled with stuff. We just don't see it. But some of us are beginning to see it. More of those tube things that seem to be coming from the holes. I'm always making videos showing some of this, and I'm theorizing, conjecturing, just from my experience of looking at so many of them. I have ideas of what it could be. Sometimes I've thought of it as being the etheric world, or aqueous substance, the stuff out of which everything is made. It's like an artist's palette. It's got all the colors there, and it's got the vibration and frequency because it has the movement. This one looks kind of like sometimes you see an arching thing on the sun, on those pictures that they've taken of the surface of the sun. And the colors can be just so beautiful. Okay. I'm just going to go through them. They weave, these lights weave themselves many different ways. It's funny, but no one around me, family or friends or anyone I know, except a few people that are seeing my videos who will make comments and who think this is really interesting. But most people around me think, well, that's nothing. So I don't get the ego very bad. But let me just show you. I have probably thousands of pictures of orbs. I'll just scroll down through them. And they can have such fluorescent colors. Look at this one right here. See how fluorescent it is? And an orb can do this. It can twist itself like that. Sometimes I get so close in you don't even see the outer edges. And the outer edges aren't always round. Because sometimes it's just a lot of color floating around without any definite structure around it. Sometimes it looks like a worm, like an earthworm. There's that curved line balls again. Now I know this is something, and that it's something important. And look at the little tiny circles in the background of this. I read a metaphysical book one time that talked about what I think this might be. It was saying that if we start seeing everyone as God and we recognize God in everyone else, then we will be given a glimpse into the subatomic microscopic zone of life. And then it went on to say we would see this cell that's almost transparent, gel-like in appearance, and that it is the immortal cell, the first cell that formed all other cells and more of its own kind, and that can never change. Because it lives off of sunlight. It makes sunlight its food. And that's I have a video, or else it's a playlist, I'm not sure which one, but it's called The Immortal Cell, where I read that part of that book that talked about this. If that is what I'm looking at, indeed, then this is something very important, because it's this stuff of the invisible that makes the visible that we see and touch and smell and taste. But this looks like it has dimension and all kinds of features, but yet it's right there in empty space all around us, like we're swimming or walking through this stuff and never notice it. Anyway, I wanted you there at third phase of the moon to look into this and see what you think of it, and let me know. I've yet to hear anyone tell me a whole lot about what they think it could be. So maybe you'll be the first ones to do that. I hope that you will. And I'll be looking for a reply from you. This is the Dove Lady, over and out. End of video.